Thank you, Nisa. Hi, everybody. Ali, grateful alcoholic. You guys can hear me okay? Yeah? Yes? Okay, good. Okay. The videos are doing some funny things and moving slowly. I hope my internet connection is okay. Nisa, just let me know anytime. Okay, then I need to adjust something. Okay, grateful to be here with all of you on session 11. What was supposed to be out of 12, but we'll see now. So just to address a couple of things that I was overhearing. One is the recording. So seeing how it looks like the Spirit's plan wasn't for us to finish what I intended to finish in 12 sessions, and understanding that you guys, many of you have planned for 12 sessions. So what we're going to do is, as I mentioned before, if we go on beyond 12 sessions, so I think next week we'll cover step 10 and that's it. That's all we'll be able to cover. Um, so I will stay on, and whoever is able to stays on. So that this means that we're going to release all the recordings, okay, at the end for sure, because it's not fair to people that have planned 12 sessions. Now they're not going to get, right? So we're going to release all the recordings. That's one thing. The other thing is that I overheard is, excuse me, confusion about what to use, like the session directions, or I just want to share something with you. So the very last email that you got, and what Kuna posted in the chat last week, is the most updated big book directions. So please disregard the session notes, like this session we did this, and just because the sessions may not always match, like we didn't cover everything that we wanted to cover necessarily in every session. For example, if you notice, look at the first 3 points. The first session, usually what I get to do is cover the 3 pages in the middle with a new person, and then do the color coding and the circle and triangle, right? And I may even get into the doctor's opinion a little bit. So that could be first 3 could be 1 session, So just go with this. This is the best, most updated directions that we have on what to do. And if you notice here, let me just see. Oh, there it is. So like when we get to the inventory stuff, there's a little bit more detail what the assignments are, for example, number 12, right? What the assignments are, approximately how many days to give, and all that stuff. Nothing's rigid, okay? All that stuff is the Spirit will guide you what you need to do, right? Just sort of a guideline. Really, mainly, this is for the beginning where we jump around a lot, right? So you know where to go. And then if you notice at the end, I think we talked about this last week. See number 20, no, number 29, like we're covering chapters 8, 9, 10, and then chapter Vision for You 11, and then Dr. Bob's story 31 and 32. It just says traditions out of the 12 and 12. That's what I've been doing. It's through the big book and the traditions. And then we mentioned also last week that sometimes, a lot of times, especially these days, there isn't really time to do that. So I encourage, I either do a group thing with a man that I sponsor with the traditions, like a Zoom thing, group together, or I encourage them to search out a traditions workshop. There's plenty out there right now, right? I don't need to be the be all and end all, right? And along the way, because I have a weekly appointment, or every week and a half, every 2 weeks, depending on where this person is in the steps with them to continue in the big book, I get to, in that conversation, talk about what's going on in life, applying spiritual principles, and then, talking about in those conversations, traditions conversations usually come up, So I don't know, I just need to share all that. Okay. All right. Session, and we're continuing in the amends now. So I had, if you notice, I have noticed this, the 2 steps where they're the biggest and most, it seems like, profound and deepest promises gathered together are steps 9 and 12, right? In step 12, it says nothing ensures immunity from alcohol except intensive work, right? And then after to see people recover, to watch a fellowship grow up about you, don't want, that's a huge promise, right? And then the step 9 promises. Everyone always thinks about the promises, like the step 9 promise, right? The promises all over the big book, but the step 9 promises, so many of them I believe the reason for that is those are the two steps which really get me to practice and live up to the commitment I've made in the third step with God. Those are the two steps that get me to start to fulfill my desire of usefulness. Every other step prepares me for that. Like the first 8 steps before that, they prepare me to start being useful to God's kids. That's why there's so much freedom in the 9th step. And there's so many profound promises in the 9th step. Now, if we just, excuse me, if we just go to page 77, we left off on 78. Page 77. At the bottom of the page, at the bottom margin of 77, we're going to do a little bit of writing to the step 9 process. Okay, so I'm going to show you, if somebody can spotlight me, just so you guys can get an idea of how much space and how small to write. Can somebody spotlight me? Thank you. See, it says step 9 process. I highlighted and there's okay. So anyways, it's hard to see, it's blurry, but that's, you get an idea how much. So at the bottom of page 77, to the top left of the bottom, please write step 9 process and then highlight that in yellow. And I'm going to give you a 5-step process. Okay, stop the highlighting. Thank you. Stop the spotlight. Thank you. Do it myself. There it is. Step 9 process, underline, highlight, and then colon after that. There's 5 steps. Okay, so below that line where it says step 9 process, write 1, circle it. Please write small, make approach. We're doing everything short form, right? So make approach. We're going to write everything, come back and talk about it. Make approach. Below number 1, please write number 2. Confess exact harms done. That I'm aware of. Confess exact harms done that I'm aware of. Okay, number 1, make approach. Number 2, confess exact harms done that I'm aware of. Number 3, express regret for my actions and their impacts. Express regret for my actions and their impacts. Okay. So number 4, try to fit it somewhere at the bottom. And if you can't, no problem. Just go to the right margin and write long ways from the bottom, number 4 and number 5. Okay, just fit it somewhere there. Anissa says my internet connection is unstable. Can you still hear me okay? Yeah? Okay. Okay. Terry, you have your hand up. Is everything okay with you?
I just didn't remember the set-aside prayer.
Thank you very much. As you put your hand up, I remember we didn't do it. Would you please do it for us? There you go. Unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. Yes,
Okay.
Terry Alcoholic. God, help us set aside everything we think we know about ourselves, about this program, about the big book, about everything. Give us a new attitude and a new outlook about ourselves, about this book, and about you, God. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Terry. Once you put your hand up, I realized. By the way, I'm feeling a little off today, but it is what it is. Thank you, Terry. All right. So number 3, express regret for my actions and their impacts. There's 2 more, 4 and 5. Okay, fit it wherever you can. Lots of room there. You can put on the top margin if you wanted to do it wherever you can. So number 4, I'm going to put in quotation. That means I say something like this, right? It doesn't have to be exact. So, did I leave anything out? Question mark. Did I leave anything out? Question mark. Did I leave anything out? Question mark. And then number 5, the last one, again in quotation mark, I ask something like this. How can I set things right? How can I set things right? And then we're going to go over it together. Okay. Number 4 is, did I leave anything out? Question mark. And number 5, how can I set things right? Okay. So we're going to go over, if you missed it, we're going to go over it right now, one by one, and just sort of unpack just a little bit. So, again, and some friends here may be familiar with this, right? So if you've been doing another approach and it's been working for you, beautiful. Again, in the spirit of what Terry reminded of as a set-aside prayer, just you may want to just set that aside for a little while and then see if there is anything spiritually beneficial that may come to you from just trying something else, trying something new. So step 9, process, make the approach. Okay, so what does that look like? When I make the approach, I pick up the phone. I send the email, for example. I don't know. However, I send the text. However, I'm just making the approach. In my approach, I'm not making the amends. Okay. So, for example, I don't know if you guys had this experience or not, but if you had this experience or not, I was about to many years ago, I was about to speak. And then somebody sits next to me and they just start making their amends to me right before I didn't have time to digest or anything, right? One of the very few times somebody's made an amends to me, but that's okay. It's call someone up and I just blurt out, right? I just want to get off my chest. But that's not the point of the amends. The point of the amends is to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people about me. So in this spirit of being considerate of others and hard on myself, I want to see if they're in a place to receive it, if they're open to have such a conversation. It's not about freeing me of my conscience and my guilt or whatever I feel. That's all self-centered stuff, right? That's not going to get me anywhere. So I'll make the approach, whether it's a phone call or a text or an email, however I can reach them. I literally just make the approach. Hi, so-and-so. However you want to do it. If you want to admit you're drinking, fine. If not, you don't have to. Or if I've been contemplating the last little while, on my life and my actions, and I've come to a couple of realizations, and one of them is that I've harmed some people, and you're one of them. I was wondering if you would be generous enough to give me the opportunity, maybe for a phone call or face-to-face, so I can just make an amends to you. I leave it with them. If they say no, then it's no. They're not ready. That's what the Spirit says, not for you right now, Ali. Right? I just make this. So the approach is just the approach. Okay, I ask their permission. Number 2, confess exact harms done. So I made the approach. Yeah, sure, let's go for coffee. You can call me this day at this time, or you can do it right now. Okay. So number 2 is I confess exact harms done as I'm aware of. So as through my inventory and my step 8 list, and I make a step 9, remember we were doing 3 a week or however many, right? So I have bullet point exact harms done that I'm aware of. I run it by somebody, a sponsor, or somebody I trust. Is my ego getting in the way here? Am I talking about their faults? I want to make sure. What do you think of these harms done? Am I going to make more harm in confessing these things, right? I've already run it by somebody and I've prayed on it, right? So then I confess the exact harms done. Exactly. I stole from you. I yelled at you last time. I was really inconsiderate and cruel in this occasion. Whatever it is, right? Confess exact harms done. Now, if you hold on to that, if you go back to just up the paragraph, page 77, just the second last paragraph, we highlight in yellow at the bottom, it says, we go to him in a helpful, forgiving spirit, confessing our former ill feelings and expressing our regret. Notice someone, I think, asked, I'm not sure if it was after the meeting or not, a very good question. Do I go to them and tell them how I felt about them? Right? That makes not in the context of what this book is talking about, right? I don't go and tell them I hated you. That's going to hurt them, right? That was the ego. That was the bondage of self. That was the lies, right? The truth is in my 4th column. Okay, so I go and confess exact harms done. One thing that I've done in the past and I made a mistake, what I don't do is read my 4th column to them. That's not what I'm doing. A fourth column is a revelation to me. Out of that and prayer and sponsorship, I got to extract exact harms done. Exact harms done, right? The fourth column could say, something like everything I'm accusing him of doing, the stealing or whatever, I've done in my own way. That's a revelation for me. I don't want to tell them that, right? So exact harms done. Number 3, express regret. It says, I'm expressing our regret. Express regret for my actions and their impacts. So an apology is a small part of an amends process. All I used to do is apologize to people and then repeat the same thing over and over again. My words became really cheap. People want to see some actions, right? In the amends, I want to formally compensate somebody for the harm that I've done, mend the relationship or mend the harm that I've done with a sincere desire not to do it again. We wrote that note last week, right? So express regret for my actions and their impacts. Number 4 and 5 are not in the big book, okay? So we're not going to do anything that's going to be opposite of what the big book says, but through the years, decades now, people, our friends, some spiritual giants, been doing this work, some who are on this call for decades now, right? And through the decades, Spirit has revealed a little bit more. You know, God will reveal more to us, right? These 2 questions, if I'm correct, they actually come from Don Pritz and that whole Fellowship in Spirit lineage. So the question is, did I leave anything out? Because I never want to assume that I covered everything. There's no way that I can remember everything properly. There's no way that I see everything clearly. I'm going by my memory. I'm not in their shoes. I've never felt the impact of Ali fully on people's lives as like a tornado, right? So that question is a humbling question. And I asked them, what has been your experience? Did I forget anything? Did I miss anything? Did I leave anything out? Did I leave anything out, right? However you ask that question. And in that question, after I ask that question, I am quiet. If they need to browbeat me for however long they need to, they do it. I close my mouth. I may be praying underneath for God to remove my selfishness that's coming up as I'm hearing things about me that I don't like, that I've missed, or hearing things that I may not agree with. I don't think I did that. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a walk with God. Did I leave anything out? I just listen. Okay. Now, so forget that. So number 5, this is not on the big book, but it's been passed on through lineage of big book people, some giants there, and it really makes the amends really complete for me. It has. How can I set things right? Because that's the point of an amends. I want to set right the harm that I've done. And I can't assume for the other person, I can't be so arrogant to know what they've gone through that I've covered everything. And I'm not going to be so arrogant to tell them this is what I'm going to do for you to set things right. How can I set things right? I'm really glad, Ali, that you're doing better in your life. I want you to never call me. Okay, thank you for the opportunity. No problem. I've never called them. It hurt for a while. It was uncomfortable. I had to continue to pray about it. But the amends are not there for me to feel good instantly. But I've been free. I'm free. And if that person ever wants, they'll come back to me. How can I set things right? Keep doing what you're doing, baby. I love you. Okay, Ma. I want you. You know what? I really like it when you're happy. Every time I go to my parents' house, I'm happy. I don't care how I'm really doing. I'm happy. Big smile. I bring food. I'm happy. Because that's what she wanted me to do. How can I set things right? I want you to pay me back the money you owe me. Sure, no problem. We'll get to the money thing. No problem. Okay. Is everybody clear on that? Yeah? Okay, perfect. Okay. So those are the amends process. There's a very powerful way, if you haven't done that, to try it. It really covers all the bases. Okay. Now, if we go to page 70, now, if you notice on 77, we start to number in these next few pages so beautifully. The Spirit, through Bill Wilson, and the first however many they were, covers any possible angle of general situations for an amends due, right? We're gonna number them. Number one, we've numbered the question of how to approach a man we hated will rise. To give us some suggestions, some instructions. Flip the page, please, to 78. The last thing we highlighted last week was it should not matter, however, if someone does throw us out of his office. We've made our demonstration, done our parts, water over the dam. It doesn't matter. I've done my part, right? That was the first general area of amends. Now we come to the second general area of amends. Please highlight in yellow, most alcoholics owe money. Please highlight that in yellow. Most alcoholics owe money. Okay. Right to the left of the M in most, immediate left of it, write the number 2 and circle it. That's the second general area of amends. Okay. So now we're going to speed up a little bit today. And then also, if you don't mind, I would like to ask you, as we're going through the general areas and numbering them, please pray and see if Spirit brings any examples that you can share with us in any of those areas, okay? I'm going to ask for hands later on, and we're going to cover just one person, one area, and succinct to the point, okay? So most alcoholics owe money. In yellow, no more yellow. We do not dodge our creditors, telling them that what we are trying to do. We make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyways, whether we think so or not. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory it may cause financial harm. Dr. Bob was afraid of that, remember? Bill met him. He got sober for like a couple of weeks, whatever it was. He was afraid. He went in. He was afraid to make his amends because he thought the little business he has he's going to lose if people really know. Meanwhile, everyone knew that he's a drunk, right? And he went and drank and came back and one day made all his amends. And then he stayed sober and AA started at that time, right? Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know we are sorry we are sorry. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. So above where we said best deal, arranging the best deal, please circle best deal. Please circle that. Please circle best deal. Okay. From best deal, put a line to the left margin, a little arrow. Line to the left margin, a little arrow. Turn the book clockwise 90 degrees, so the left margin is facing you. From the very top left margin, put one bullet point. We're gonna have probably 2 or 3 lines, maybe, no, probably 2 lines. Bullet point, please write the following. This is in regards to best deal, okay? So when it says a best deal, it's not, again, I'm explaining that to a newcomer, right? It's not saying, well, listen, I'm not wheeling and dealing with the person. I borrowed 2,000 from you. How about I just give you 500? We call it. That's all. I'm not arranging the best deal in that way, okay? Please write this. Make a payment plan. Make a payment plan that you can honestly afford. That's the first line, first bullet point line. Make a payment plan that you can honestly afford. Thank you, Kristen, so much. Make a payment plan that you can honestly afford. Okay. Again, below the first bullet point, second bullet point, right below it, we're going to write across the left margin again. Remember, comma. Remember, comma. You are not giving up your money, period. There's one more sentence after that. Remember, Ali, you're not giving up your money, period. You are giving them back their money, period. Oh, okay. Thank you for that reminder. Remember, comma, you are not giving up your money, period. You are giving them back their money. So 2 bullet points we had. First bullet point, make a payment plan that you can honestly afford. Second bullet point, remember, you are not giving up your money, period. You are giving them back their money, period. Okay, thank you, Kristen. So meaning, arranging the best deal we can. Okay, so what it sounds like is, so if I'm working and if I have whatever my income is, I got to set aside money for rent, let's say, for food, right? I got to, for some essential bills and anything after that. So that's a conversation I have with the person in a very humble way. You know, I have $50 a month left after I pay rent and food. Would it be okay with you if I make a payment plan for, I don't know, $20 a month for now? And if once I start working, I'll increase that amount. I'll have another, is that okay with you? You know, it's a very humble conversation. So I can't take away food from feeding my baby to paying a man's. That's not a spiritual thing to do either. That's me trying to look good and get rid of my guilt. That's not what I'm doing. At the same time, if I have $200 a month extra, I'm not buying myself a pair of shoes either and not pay the amends. I'm not setting aside entertainment for myself monthly. I need to go to wherever twice a week, but no, I'm not doing that. You know, again, with the sponsor, okay, with this, whatever the sponsor does. Okay, perfect, beautiful. And then the last sentence, the last 2.5 lines of that paragraph, please highlight in yellow, important. We must lose our fear of creditors, no matter how far we have to go, for we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them. We are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them. That's in yellow, very important. Creditors, I pick up. I don't have any money. I pick up, I'm honest with them, right? Oh, I'll share something with you just quickly. So for me, it got so bad. I was in so much debt, maybe not, you know, to someone else, maybe they, you know, some people were millions up. For me, it was so much that I tried, I couldn't get my head above water. With my sponsor, with prayer, we decided, I don't know what you guys have in the States. In Canada, we have like certain bankruptcy laws. I had to. Legally, I had to go to bankruptcy, consumer proposal, I had to. There's no other way. Legally, I had to take steps so I can keep my head above water and start feeding a family. You know what I mean? For my, not personal stuff I made for business and credit stuff, because there's things in place that they get paid what they need to get paid. There's write-offs, whatever that they do. But I tried and I couldn't, right? So perfect. So that's that. Okay. So please keep in mind the people that we're going to share, get 2 areas so far. Question of a man or woman we hated. If you have an example of that, what that looked like, and then to financial man's, what that looks like. Let's go to the 3rd area. Okay, we're going to move a little bit. So the next paragraph, to the left of perhaps, immediate left, write the number 3 and put a circle around it. Highlighting yellow, perhaps we've committed a criminal offense which might land us in jail if we were known to the authorities. This is a 3rd general area of amends they presented to us in this book. Like an amends that if I make it, it's gonna have some severe consequences, you know, jail or, you know, criminal or just some severe consequences. Okay, no more yellow. We may be short in they give us 2 examples on this area, okay? We may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. We have already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we are sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. See some severe consequences that I'm sure I'm going to lose my job, in prison, get it. Maybe it's only a petty offense such as padding the expense account. Most of us have done that sort of thing. Maybe we are divorced and have remarried, but haven't kept up the alimony to number 1. She's indignant about it and has a warrant out for arrest. That's a common form of trouble too. Although these reparations, these paybacks, take innumerable forms, there are some general principles which we find guiding. In yellow, now, important, reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any length for a spiritual experience. Please stop your yellow right at experience. Experience. Okay. Grab your pen. Please circle to go and then circle. We just highlighted it, to go and then circle the entire line there to any lengths to find this spiritual experience. We want to make it stand out even more. You remember a while ago, I kept on repeating there's 3 places, the first 164 pages of this big book, the solution portion of this big book, where they present to me the idea of, are you willing to go new lengths, right? In how it works. We do a contract together, but that's not part of the big book. In how it works. In the step 8 paragraph we just did last week, and then in this one, step 9. Remember, Ali? You have decided to go to any length for a spiritual experience. Isn't that interesting? I guess the Spirit knew some of the hardest actions to take would be the 9th step. Twice in the 9th step, or 8th and 9th, right? Twice in the 9 steps. Guess what? That's why there's so many promises around the ninth step because it's so freeing. It's so freeing when I get to set right the wrongs I've done to God's other kids and be humble about it. In the ninth step is when I watch God remove and tweak the defects of character that are blocking me from the Son of the Spirit. And the ninth step is when God gives me the courage and the honesty. My desire to cooperate with God, to not be dishonest anymore, to not be judgmental so much, to not, you know what I mean? My cooperation is in the actions of the ninth step. Is in the actions of the ninth and the rest of the steps. Right? Grab the pink, please. It's a prayer. Right after experience, please highlight in pink to the rest of this sentence. It's a prayer. We ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. We ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences may be. And to the right of that pink, please write in small, step 9, prayer number 1. Step 9, below it, prayer, below it, number 1, if you're writing long ways. If your big book is facing you straight. To the right, step 9, prayer number 1. In the step 9 pages, they give me 2 prayers. This is the first one. There's so much in there. I ask that be given. I don't have the strength. I want strength and direction, God, to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences are to me, because I'm always worried on some level, what's going to happen to me? The self-centeredness is the death of me, is a root cause of my problem. Step 9, prayer number 1. Okay. No more highlighting. We may lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing. We have to be. These are some powerful directions, eh? A little bit scary, right? In yellow, please. The last sentence. We must not shrink at anything. We must not shrink at anything. We must not shrink anything. Oh no, you don't have to make that amends. You're gonna go to jail. Don't make that amends. No, we must not shrink at anything. You must not shrink at anything. Okay, now that's a tall order, right? That's a little bit scary, especially for a new person. And now they give us 2 live examples of what that looks like on the ground. We're not going to be so rigid with that, right? 2 live examples of the general area of number 3, that if I make an amends, I believe there's going to be really big consequences, okay? So to the right of the next paragraph, where it starts from usually, however, please write example number 1. Example number 1, okay? I found like dividing the step 9 pages in this way, it's made it so simple. It just unpacked it so easy, right? Example number 1. Highlighting yellow. Usually, however, other people are involved. Therefore, we are not to be the hasty and foolish martyr who would needlessly sacrifice others to save himself from the alcoholic pit. That's in yellow, right? So the exact directions are that I must not shrink it. I go to absolutely any length, right? The spiritual container of the amends is that the amends process is for me to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people about me. So what I do is I consult my sponsor, I pray and meditate, I consult whoever I need to that is in this work, that knows what I'm doing. I take it to prayer and meditation, and then I do the next indicated direction. So in this example, look what they say. A man we know has remarried. Because of resentment and drinking, he had not paid alimony to his first wife. She was furious. She went to court and got an order for his arrest. He had commenced our way of life and secured a position and was getting his head above water. It would have been impressive heroics if he had walked up to the judge and said, "Here I am." We thought he ought to be willing to do that if necessary. So the willingness to go to any length is there, right? Well, let's be sensible about this. Let's bring God into this. But if he were in jail, he could provide nothing for either family. So therefore, if he went to jail, his current family wouldn't get anything, and his former family wouldn't get anything either. He's just doing that to save himself from his guilt. That's a self-centered thing to go to the judge right away and say, hey, I'm willing to go to jail. With consultation with the sponsor and elders, look what they came up with. We suggested he write his first wife admitting his faults and asking forgiveness. He did, and also sent a small amount of money. He told her what he would try to do in the future. He said he was perfectly willing to go to jail if she insisted. Of course, she did not, and the whole situation has long since been adjusted, right? So the willingness was there. The Spirit provided a solution in which is best for everybody involved. Okay, beautiful, fantastic. Let's flip the page. We'll cover one more example, and then we'll take some sharing, please, from the floor. Top of page 80, to the left of the top paragraph, please write example number 2. So the first example they gave me is the wife, right? Former wife, go to jail, wrote a letter, right? Example number 2, highlight in yellow that top small paragraph, all of it, please, highlight in yellow. Before taking drastic action, which might implicate other people, we secure their consent. If we have obtained permission, have consulted with others, ask God to help, and the drastic step is indicated, we must not shrink. Okay, sort of the same thing, right? If my actions are going to affect others or implicate others, I consult with others. I consult with the people involved. I can consult with my sponsor, pray and meditate. And then if the action is indicated, that I go ahead, right? Here's the example they tell us. This brings us no more yellow. This brings to mind a story about one of our friends. While drinking, he accepted a sum of money from a bitterly hated business rival, giving him no receipt for it. He subsequently denied having received the money and used the incident as a basis of discrediting the man. He thus used his own wrongdoing as a means of destroying the reputation of another. In fact, his rival was ruined. He felt that he had done a wrong he could not possibly make right. If he opened that old affair, he was afraid it would destroy the reputation of his partner, disgrace his family, and take away his means of livelihood. What right had he to involve those dependent upon him? How could he possibly make a public statement exonerating his rival? Okay, so if he were to make that amends, his current family would be affected because he couldn't make money. His current business partner would be affected because the business would be ruined, right? So he has no right to just go make the amends. Consulted with them. It doesn't quite say, but I'm assuming obviously consulted with spiritual elders and sponsor. Okay? After consulting his wife and partner, he came to the conclusion that it was better to take those risks than to stand before his creator guilty of such ruinous slander. He saw that he had to place the outcome in God's hands, or he would start to drink again and all would be lost anyhow. He attended church for the first time in many years. After the sermon, he quietly got up and made an explanation. His actions met widespread approval, and today he's one of the most trusted citizens of his town. This all happened years ago. Okay, beautiful. Fantastic. Would you please highlight in yellow? For some reason, I highlight this should be highlighted. Okay. Highlighting yellow, we just read this. He saw that he had to place the outcome in God's hands. From the top of that paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down. He saw that he had to place the outcome in God's hands, or he would start to drink again, and all would be lost anyhow. Highlight that in yellow. The middle of that paragraph that we just read. Okay. So they don't give me any rigid directions of what to do. I am to consult the sponsor, consult people involved, pray and meditate, and maybe the indicated action would be to go and do it anyways. Maybe it'll be something like, well, write a letter. Write a letter first and see what happens. Okay? Perfect, beautiful. Okay. One more general area, and then we come to sharing. Okay. The next paragraph, to the left of the beginning of the next paragraph, please write the number 4 and circle it. Thank you guys for your patience with this session. I know we're doing a lot of circling and me reading. I appreciate you. Just try to get to the immense pages. Highlighting yellow, please. The chances are that we have domestic trouble. Now they're going to cover the general area of domestic trouble, relationships, romantic relationships, right? Marriages, girlfriend, boyfriend. Right? The chances are that we have domestic troubles. Highlight that in yellow. That's the fourth area, number 4. Okay, no more yellow. Perhaps we are mixed up with women in a fashion we wouldn't care to have advertised. We doubt if, in this respect, alcoholics are fundamentally much worse than other people. But drinking does complicate sex relations in the home. After a few years with an alcoholic, the wife or a husband gets worn out, resentful and uncommunicative. How could she be anything else? The husband begins to feel lonely, sorry for himself. He commences to look around in the nightclubs or their equivalent for something besides liquor. Perhaps he's having a secret and exciting affair with the girl in quotation who understands. In fairness, we must say that she may understand. But what are we going to do about a thing like that? A man so involved often feels very remorseful at times, especially if he's married to a loyal and courageous girl who has literally gone to hell for him. Okay? Domestic troubles, affairs, and cheating. Okay? That general area they touch. Okay. Highlighting yellow, the first sentence in the next paragraph, important. Whatever the situation, we usually have to do something about it. Whatever the situation, we usually have to do something about it. Okay, no more yellow. If we are sure our wife does not know, please listen to these words. They're powerful, eh? If we are sure our wife does not know, should we tell her? Not always, we think. If she knows in a general way that we have been wild, should we tell her in detail? Undoubtedly, we should admit our fault. She may insist on knowing all the particulars. She'll want to know who the woman is and where she is. We feel we ought to say to her that we have no right to involve another person. We are sorry for what we have done. God willing, it shall not be repeated. More than that, we cannot do. We have no right to go further. Though there may be justifiable exceptions, and though we wish to lay down no rule of any sort, we have found the best course to take. Okay? So again, in the spirit of this, not a workshop where we unpack a paragraph and all that kind of stuff, this is so we can pass it on to the next person, right? We're not going to really unpack this, pretty self-explanatory, okay? But for the people that have had this immense experience, please put up your hands, right? This is one of the areas we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you. Notice they don't say that the big book never tells me in rigidity, you must do this. Not a sponsor, I have a right to anybody that I must, right? That's not up to anybody else. Sponsor guides me, directs me, we pray, we meditate, and then we see what the right thing is, right? I've heard of examples, that the sponsor has guided, rightfully so, after prayer and meditation. It has come that, you know what, if you have a real sincere desire to not continue with cheating, and you want to make this marriage work, and it looks like if you make this amends, if you bring about what she doesn't have no clue about, it's going to destroy her, then you just keep this to yourself right now. Let's change our behavior. I've heard of that. It's not my business, right? And I've heard it the other way as well. Really, it's between God, right, and the person. So please circle our design for living. We're almost there. We're going to have some sharing now. Please circle the next paragraph, our design for living. Please circle that. From the circle, put a line to the bottom margins, curve a line and an arrow to the bottom margin. Please write this. It's sort of off topic, this note, but it's really on topic, okay? Please write the note. The 12 steps are a design for living. The 12 steps are a design for living. They're not a design for not drinking. The not drinking happens as a byproduct. It's a design for living. My problem is not drinking. My problem is I don't know how to live. That's the real problem. The surface is drinking, right? So the 12 steps are designed for living. Our design for living is not a one-way street. It is as good for the wife as for the husband. If we can forget, so can she. It is better, however, that one does not needlessly name a person upon whom she can vent jealousy. Perhaps there are some cases where the utmost frankness, honesty is demanded. No outsider, see, we were just talking about that. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. It may be that both sides both will decide that the way of good sense and loving kindness is to let bygones be bygones. Each might pray about it, having the other person's happiness uppermost in mind. Keep it Keep it always in sight that we are dealing with that most terrible human emotion, jealousy. Most generalship may decide that the problem be attacked on the flank rather than risk face-to-face combat. If we have no such complications, there's plenty we should do at home. Sometimes we hear an alcoholic say, no, that's it. No, face-to-face combat. That's where we're ending right now. Okay, perfect. So beautiful. So in the interest of this workshop, it'll be much more beneficial if we hear your experiences. The 5 areas. Now you can go through the pages. See what comes to you. The 5 areas that I'm asking. Please, not one person share 5 areas, one person, one area. Okay. The question of how to approach the person I hated. Do I have that specific amends example? Owing money, making the amends, the approach. Do I have that? Criminal offense or an offense that was going to have really dire consequences and the process, and I went through that. Do I have that example? Number 4, domestic troubles and affairs. Do I have that example? Okay, fantastic. Please, Barbie, come on up, please, if you have an amends example. If you don't mind, please keep your video on. No? Okay. Marilyn, please come on up, please. Who's supposed to unmute here? Okay, there we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Now. Good morning, Maryland, alcoholic. Okay, I want to make sure that I'm on point. The first one being someone that you hate, but could it be someone that you felt owed you an amends? Not that, because my point is in regards to you saying to ask them, is there anything else that I may have left out? And it was with my sister who owed me an amends, and I did not want to give her an amends.
Do you have an example of you making that amends?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, perfect, man. So so here's the thing. Okay, so I don't want to really go deep. So it has to be revealed to me through sponsorship and the spirit that doesn't matter if I feel they also owe me an amends, that I owe them an amends. Mm-hmm. I'm not just faking, oh, I owe you, and I'm going to make something up to make an amends as a manipulative tool to get them to talk about right? It has to be revealed to me that they may be 99% wrong. Is revealed to me by my sponsor and the spirit, 1% I own amends. Exactly. So that's part of it. Do you have an example?
I'm going to make it really brief so that I don't take up too much time. Okay. So I felt that I owed her amends because of my alcoholism and me not being a sister and available to her. Right. But she had tortured me my entire childhood. And I still suffered from traumatic stress disorder based on that childhood trauma. Right. So it was very difficult for me to make this amends, but it was led to me and through Ralph's workshop and through my sponsor that you need to cover your part of the street and not worry about that. So I did that, right? And felt good about doing it once I did it because I do love my sister, right? But then when I asked the question, is there anything else that I may have forgotten? She came up with something that was so harmful to me, another harm she had done to me. And I had to sit there and bite my tongue and cringe because it was another horrible, torturous thing that she had done. And she blamed it on me. So then I got a new resentment.
Beautiful. A new opportunity to be more free. New opportunity to do more work and be free.
Not right? Some more homework.
There you go, right? Beautiful.
I want to be free.
Beautiful. Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you.
So incredible. See, what an example. What a beautiful example that I have ideas how I want amends to go, right? I do it, especially the difficult ones, right? And the spirit has ideas for me, right? Because me making the amends is not for me to feel good, is not for me to go tick for tack and make sure they realize how much they've harmed me and they heal me. My walk is with God. God is going to heal me because my motive in making amends is to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people about me. And it may not be to that person, Marilyn. It may be through this, I'm old belief systems come out of me through this process. And I apply spiritual principles and I get healed and I healed, and God uses me to be of service to someone else that I had no idea of. And in the process, I look back and I'm like, man, that thing with my sister is gone. I'm more free. Do you see what I'm saying? Right? So thank you for that example. That was a perfect example that God's in charge, right? So what a delusion that at times, all of us, I'm talking about me, I suffer from, that the issue is on the outside. It's very plausible. I make a case for it. Any other human being will look at it, would say, it was your dad who beat you. You didn't deserve to be beat. You have a right to feel this way at the age of 35. Of course, it's his fault that you can't really be successful in life. But that keeps me in the bondage, man. You understand? Beautiful. Thank you so much. Kid, come on up, please. Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kit and I'm an alcoholic. I'm going to talk about the domestic troubles. I
Perfect.
cheated on my husband, and before that, I cheated with married men when I was single. And so I spent time with my sponsor on this, quite a bit of time, because this was probably my biggest amend to make. And the first time I addressed it in step 9, I followed the book exactly. I spoke in general terms. And the reason was because I knew he suspected. And I didn't name names. I didn't go into specifics. And he seemed satisfied. And in my amends, I did say to him, is there anything you want to add? Anything I left out? And, we talked a little more about it, but again, I didn't get into specifics. 4 months later, I found him going through my stuff. I said, oh, what's up? What are you looking for? And he had been acting very withdrawn from me. He was convinced that he knew who I cheated with, and that I was still doing it. So he asked me specific names and events and so forth. So I did come clean. It was not pretty at all. And we almost got divorced. However, what he said to me, he said, I don't know if I can ever get over this. How do I get over this? And I said, you can't ask me how to fix this. I can tell you, if I don't drink, I'm pretty convinced I'll never do this again. Anyway, long story short, God bless him. He got a therapist and he went to Al-Anon. And this was 5 years ago, and we are stronger than ever before. And we talk about it now and then because we'll be watching a show or something. I want to cry, but like the 9-step promises say, I will not regret the past and I will not shut the door on it. And so I've been able to use this example many times with sponsees and as an example here. So thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Kit, for your generosity. So what Kit shared just brings up one thing that I need to, so as a sponsor, I don't know is a very profound, spiritually powerful answer. If I haven't had the experience that Kit has had, and the man that I'm sponsoring is coming to that, I talk about what the big book talks about, and I encourage them to find someone, a member of alcohol, or I know people that would talk to Kit about this. She's had the experience. I don't know is a really good answer, man. Okay, thank you, Kit, for saying. Okay, Bray, come on up, please. Hi, Bray.
Mute. Hi, sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name's Bray. I am a recovered alcoholic. So my example is you know, when it says on 77, harder to go to an enemy than a friend, you know, this person, so it was an ex of mine and did not want to go and talk to this person and make the amend at all. In fact, it was the number one person, top of my resentment list, but I knew I had to do this. So I went to them and this person had cheated on me, had just really wronged me, and it was not a good situation. And this had nothing to do with me. It was my higher power that kind of nudged me along, because I would have never decided to do this on my own. And I was able to go to her and say, you know, here's my part, you know, I robbed you of your peace of mind. I caused you sleepless nights of worry. I remember I was not there when her stepfather was like on his deathbed. I was out drinking, all of these things that I did. And I was just able, I'll say me and God, were able to set aside everything else that this other person had done to me. And I was able to make that amend, you know, sorry I didn't show up to funerals, all this stuff. And it was just so incredibly freeing. And when I was able to say, you know, is there anything else? Have I left anything out that you'd like me to know? It was, as you had said earlier, Ollie, it was just like, please keep doing what you're doing. Not necessarily want me back in their life, but like, please just keep doing what you're doing. And it was so freeing. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Ray, for that example. Thank you so much. Michael, come on up, hey, brother.
Hi, everybody. I'm alcoholic. My name's Mike. Hello. So I'm going to talk about the amends number 3. It says perhaps we've committed a criminal offense. So when I was in my alcoholism, I was a thief. Okay. And then I came into recovery. I went through the steps. I took part in the steps. And I was working for a company. I got let go and I got this phone number given to me. Okay. So this guy just out of nowhere gives me this phone number. I take the phone number. I needed a job, so I call this guy up. Okay. I call him up. He's a contractor. He says, I'm looking for framers. I said, okay, no problem. He goes, can you frame? I said, yes. So I worked with this fellow for a month or two. We're at a job site and there's a bunch of tools that were outside, a compressor. I said, you might want to put that compressor away. He said, maybe if we're in Simcoe, we would, because it would probably get stolen. And I'm thinking, I said, oh, where were you working in Simcoe? And he said, a street. And I could place myself at that street where he was working when I was in my alcoholism. And I said, oh, oh, do you remember meeting a guy there? Or actually, I remembered. I'm like, oh my God, I stole from this guy. And I tried calling my sponsor. I paused, and then it says, remembering ourselves that we decided to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience. That was very much stressed to me from my sponsor. We asked that we would be given the strength and direction to the right thing, no matter what personal consequences might be. That prayer, I had to say, I couldn't call my sponsor that day. I said that prayer, and I was guided to make the amends. Okay. So I went to this fellow, it was at lunchtime, and he says, I said to him, I go, do you remember meeting a guy that rode up to your site on a bike? He goes, yes. And asked you for a job? He goes, yes. I said, that fellow was me. He says, oh, I didn't even recognize you. I said, well, I stole a lot of things from your site. I was at a bad place at that time, and I'm not that person anymore, and I'd really like to make things right. And he sat there and he paused and he said, well, I said, if you'd like, make a list of what I owe you, and I'll try to make that amends. I'll try and make this right by paying you back. He says, well, I can't believe that you said that. And I said, well, I just want to do the right thing. And he said, I'll come up with a list. And he came up with a list, and he gave me a list of how much money I owed him. And he gave me a time period to pay it. And I paid it. And that was an amends that I didn't even think about. It was brought up to me because of his phone number was given to me out of nowhere. So I believe that God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. Okay. And I could talk all day about the amends process, but this is the one that I've been pushed to talk about. And the freedom that's come from this whole design for living is so amazing. I'm very grateful. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you, brother. What a beautiful, beautiful example of what God does. It's on God's time, right? And in that example, he didn't have time to talk to his sponsor. That's okay, right? I pray what the Spirit guides me to do. Beautiful. Fantastic. Two more hands, and then we're gonna jump. Sarah, come on up. Hi, Sarah.
Hi everyone, Sarah Alcoholic. I too was called to talk to number 3. Like the big book says, at the end of my drinking, I couldn't differentiate the truth from the false, and my abnormal life became the only normal one. I committed crime on a daily basis to survive, to get what I needed. And by the time I walked back into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was in a lot of trouble, financially, emotionally, spiritually, but legally as well. And I come from a good family. I was taught good morals and values, but untreated alcoholism just didn't take me down a very good path. And I remember when I walked back into the rooms of AA, I walked into a meeting and they were talking about this. And a member shared, my sponsor told me that if I'm guilty, I have to plead guilty. And I looked at the person who brought me in and I said, I'll never do that. Like, I was in a lot of trouble. Like, they were asking for 7 years on one charge and 3 on another. And I looked at her and with every bone in my body, I was like, I'll never do that. But through good sponsorship and these 12 steps and time in the rooms, by the time I had to go to court to face all that, I had gone through the steps and I had started sponsoring others, and I pled guilty, and it's weird, like how quickly we can take things for granted or forget what this power really can do, and how many people I've been able to share with and help with my story when people are scared, scared of criminal and what's going to happen. But I went from a 7-year offense that they were asking time for to a 6-month house arrest from pleading guilty, and that power just took care of me the whole time. And that experience ended up being one of the biggest blessings in my life. One of the things that I thought would be the worst thing that happened to me became the best thing that ever happened to me. And in those 6 months, I had to learn how to be alone, to stay in, to not be so defiant, to take some direction, which I could never do before Alcoholics Anonymous. And it taught me so much. And we've talked about it a lot through the last sessions, but me too, I was obsessed to be in a relationship before Alcoholics Anonymous. Before I found this relationship with this loving God, I could never be alone. Through the power of my higher power, I've been alone for quite a long time because I'm never alone now, but that was the first step, spending those 6 months by myself, where I actually had an opportunity to not seek outside, and it became a major blessing, and just so grateful. Thanks for letting me share.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. Beautiful, beautiful example. Just reminded me, I didn't have this experience. I never had the pleasure of jail, even though I should have maybe. But another member of Alcoholics Anonymous shared a while ago. I remember he was sharing that he ended up going to jail he pleaded guilty, ended up going for 5 years, right? And he was scared and all that, and what ended up happening that in jail, he started an AA meeting. In jail, sorry, in jail, other alcoholics became sober and free. And he had the most profound experience in those 5 years and walked out of it. He was free behind bars. And he walked out of jail just a free man, So we just never know what God has planned for us. Because my purpose in this life, specifically in the amends process, is to try to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people about me. Nothing else. Everything's a byproduct. And such beautiful examples, everybody. Thank you so much. Last person, and we'll jump back in. Carrie, come on up, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carrie. I'm an alcoholic. So mine is kind of more like a 10-step because I was sober, so I was sober when this happened. And just for anybody that's new out there or anybody that's not new, my first instinct was still to do the wrong thing. You know, I backed into a car, nobody saw, hit and run, like there was no damage to my car. And I just wanted to I was financially strapped at the time and I didn't want to, I didn't want my husband to know about it. If anyone knows my husband, Glenn Ryan in the wheelchair. Yeah. So I didn't want him to know about it. And I'm sober now for a long time, longer than he was at this time. And my first instinct was still not to tell anyone and to just, go about my business. And so I ran, and did my business or whatever, came back and I looked at the car and it was damaged and it was an older car. So I'm like, financially, I walked in the house and Glenn was doing a book study with one of his sponsees and they were going over this exact part. And so when I walked in the house, I hear that you must go to any lengths, you must not shrink it, if it's a criminal offense, you must not shrink the financial, I'm like, oh, right, God, so I ended up putting a letter on the car and the guy was really, really grateful that I had done that. And it ended up being not that much money. And we were able to, I never even met the guy, but he was just really grateful that I owned up to it when I could have just kept going and not done it. So, and then it made me feel better. And it was just funny how they were covering this exact part in the big book when I walked in the house after I had done that. It's like, oh God, God has a sense of humor, that's for sure. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. For our newer friends that are younger in sobriety and at the 12th step in this workshop, all of us, most amends are made during recovery anyways. If you're sober a couple of 24 hours, we don't have to be perfect. It's all good, right? We'll talk about the 10th step next week, right? Beautiful. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. Let's get back in the big book, page 82. The second full paragraph from the top, it starts with, if we have no such complications, what they just talked about, right? The domestic troubles, there's plenty we should do at home. Sometimes we hear an alcoholic say that the only thing he needs to do is keep sober. Certainly he must keep sober, for there will be no home if he doesn't. But he is yet a long way from making good to the wife or parents whom for years he has so shockingly treated. Passing all understanding is the patience mothers and wives have had with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would have no home today, would perhaps be dead. Okay? Pretty self-explanatory what I got to do. Next paragraph in yellow, please. I love this part. The alcoholic is like a tornado, roaring his way through the lives of others. Continue in yellow. Hearts are broken. Continue in yellow. Sweet relationships are dead. Continue, please. Affections have been uprooted. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. Yellow up to turmoil. Put a question mark after turmoil, please. Answer to the left margin. Do you relate to that? In recovery. Yes, when you were drinking, but also ask yourself, in recovery, have I ever been this person? Tornado roaring through the lives of others, hearts were broken, so relationships are dead. Selfish and considerate in turmoil, question mark. I have. Last week, there was a day I fell asleep spiritually really bad. Ask Gapsi. Thank God for this process that I get to make amends. Okay. Continue in yellow. We feel the man is unthinking when he says sobriety is enough. We feel the man is unthinking sobriety is enough. All you got to do is stay sober. That's good enough. That's not what the big book says. Sobriety is a byproduct of a right way of living. Right way of living. Okay, no more yellow. So the last thing is we feel a man is unthinking when he says sobriety is enough. No more yellow. He's like the farmer who came out of his cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. To his wife, he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here, Ma. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing?" This was the attitude that I originally had when I approached the amends process towards my family members, my mom, my dad, my sister. You guys should be happy. Are you kidding me? Is it enough that I'm sober and I'm not, and I'm not, and I'm not causing turmoil in your lives? Why don't you heal on my time? You should be forgiving me. How dare my sister continue to be a B to me? Right? selfish, self-centered. I'm like the farmer who comes out of the cyclone cellar. Hey, look, everything's good. I'm good now. I'm drinking. Everybody heal on my time. Everybody forgive me. Make me feel good. Make me feel better. Treat me with kid gloves because it's all about me and how I feel. Really. Like a tornado in people's lives. And I can be today sometimes. Not as often, not as intensely, thank God. Doesn't last as long, thank God. I'm trying to be better, you know? But certainly when I came in, page 83, top of it, in yellow, please. Yes, there is a long period of reconstruction ahead. We must take the lead. That's in yellow. Another yellow. A remorseful mumbling that we are sorry won't fit the bill at all. That's it for the yellow. Important. Okay. To the left of, yes, there's that top of the paragraph there, to the left of that, yes, please put the number 5 in circle. This is the 5th area, general area of amends with family members. They talked about relationships, romantic relationships, now family members, where there's a long period of reconstruction ahead, where there's a lot of sense of entitlement and expectation on me. Sorry, on them I put. No more yellow. We ought to sit down with the family and frankly analyze the past as we now see it. Being very careful not to criticize them. The defects may be glaring, but the chances are that our own actions are partly responsible. So we clean house with the family. Grab the pink now. It's a prayer. It's the second step 9 prayer that they introduced me to. Prayer starting from asking each morning. Asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. It's a prayer. I have used that prayer. I use that prayer. Asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. To the right of that, please write step 9, prayer number 2. To the right margin, step 9, below it, prayer, below it, number 2. Step 9, prayer number 2. Asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. Beautiful. They cover everything. In yellow, the next sentence, important. The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. It is very arrogant of me when I used to think that from 1 amends and 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 5, 6 years of sobriety, my mother would be at peace with me. And she doesn't have to check up on me to make sure that I'm okay. How arrogant of me. Come on, Ma, I've been sober for 5 years. You got to stop this. Micromanaging my... How arrogant of me. To tell someone else, your wound should be healed on my time for my comfort. How arrogant of me. It says the spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. My actions shout much louder than my words. I have to live this program. With the family, there's a long period of reconstruction ahead. I'm not going to go into too much examples for the sake of time, but I've had that with my family, with my sister, with my dad, with my mom, with close friends. Unless, no more yellow. Oh, sorry. Please put an asterisk on either side of that yellow. So throughout this big book, there's some yellow highlights that we put an asterisk on either side of the column of the line, right? Because they're super, super important. This is one of them. Spiritual life is not a theory. I got to live it. This not as homework assignments and textbooks. It's got to be on the ground. I got to live it. I got to breathe these steps. They have to become a part of the fiber of my being. No more yellow. Unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not to urge them. We should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. They will change in time. In yellow, please. We just talked about this. Our behavior will convince them more than our words. Our behavior will convince them more than our words. No more yellow. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone. Okay, I will share it. So my sister, I had made an amends to her when I was 4 months sober, with the expectation she'll forgive me, everything will be okay. That wasn't the case. And I could make a case like Marilyn that she had done a lot of harms as well. Well, I'm not going to compare to Marilyn, so it wasn't like the way you're describing Marilyn, the torture, it wasn't, but I'm just saying my own way, right? So then God put us, we ended up getting to business together, open up a store. God put us, that's a whole thing about that, but no, God put us in the car driving to Montreal from Toronto. It's a 5-hour drive, right? To go to see some investors. We wanted to franchise this store, to get some investors, grow the business at that time. We went there, the business, the meeting didn't end up the way I thought it should have. I thought we could have really benefited, but she didn't from it. On the way back, we sort of discussed it a little bit and she disagreed with me, and then she continued to be angry with me. I remember on the way back, just really mean-spirited, you know, in her tone, and just, which I felt it wasn't warranted. And what I wanted to do is just push back and just tell her all the things that she's doing wrong. And still, Annie, after 1.5 years, you're still doing this? Aren't you ever going to get out? That's all I want to say, right? What about the things that you've done? Right? Like, so you've trained me well. So I sat in this car and I just kept on praying, and God, please show me, please remove this selfishness from me. Show me what's my assignment here? What do you want me to see here, God? I know I'm being selfish. I'm just praying under my inside, right? And then the thought came really strong. You never asked her what it was like for her, did you? You never asked her what her experience was, did you? You just made these assumptions. So I asked her, told something, she was talking about the business. She was pissed off at my whatever. And I said to her, I said, hey, you know, so I talked about the stuff that had happened. You know, I made the amends that I made to you of, you know, how I've harmed you and the sleepless nights and the chaos and all that kind of stuff and stealing of your money. And just, you know what, I never asked you, and I'm really sorry that I didn't, that I never asked you what your experience was and that I really leave anything out, you know? It's a 5-hour drive. She proceeded for the next 1.5 hours, crying, telling me exactly the depth of the wound that my act of alcoholism caused her. 1.5 hours. And I sat there, tears coming down my eyes, not responding at all, just praying, mouth closed, hand over my mouth, just praying. Listen, something will come up, there'll be a pause. I would make an amends for that. I would acknowledge that. Couple of things she said, I'd never done. It was a figment of her imagination, I'm sure of that. You know what the Spirit revealed to me? Why do you have this need to be right, Ali? Is it going to make you feel better right now to tell her that she's wrong about that memory? Why do you have this need to get your spiritual fulfillment from another broken human being rather than God? So I just shut up and I just listened and I just prayed. For 1.5 hours, she did that. And I cried and she cried. And then we became free after that drive. Now, there's a little bit more to this. Now, since then, man, my sister and I were like this. There's so much I could say. She got married. She got 2 kids. I'm the one she comes to for everything. For just recently, 3-4 months ago, a few things came up. And she's done some things to our parents financially that have come up that I approached her with about. And she didn't react very humbly, right? And her and I went at it. So I'm in the process, the last few months of step 10. Clean up when I've done harms, pray, write inventories, because she's not my issue. The ego tells me that she's the problem, but what is happening, the Spirit is giving me a gift, because the valley in life with her squeezing me from my old belief systems to come out so I can address them spiritually, so I can be more free. And I'm becoming more free and more free and more free. And you know what's come to me is that she could be however she wants to. I just do what's the right thing to do. After she swore at me and told me she never wants to see me, I just brought up something calmly and kindly. The next day, I had promised her to go to a traffic red light ticket for her court. Everything inside of me wanted to say, F you, you take care of this. But you know what I had to do after talking with the sponsor and praying? It's between me and God. I had to pray. I had to go to that courtroom the next morning for 2 hours wait, resentful, praying the whole time and do the right thing anyways, because my walk is not with her, it's with God. And I've become free and more free. And recently what's come is that she's wounded. I'm not going to change her. I keep her at a distance right now. And I keep doing what I got to do. And God will reveal more. So that's just one example. There could be so many, right? And we all have many, many examples. I know, I just want to share that with you guys. Okay. Our behavior will convince them more than others. Because if my goal was for me to have a happy relationship with my sister, her acknowledge me and her, she hasn't made any amends for anything that she's done. She's done some terrible things, eh? If my goal was for her to make amends for all the things that she's done, for me to be free, man, I would be dead in the water. Because she may never heal the way I want her to heal. But my walk is with God. My freedom is independent on what anyone else does. Is dependent on my relationship with God and the steps that I take to set right things with his kids to the best of my ability. And then the step 9 promises come true on a deeper and deeper level. So I shared that with you guys. I'm in the process of that. I don't know what's going to happen. I got to do the right thing. I have a set of principles to help me do that. I have a sponsor and elders around me to help me do that, to suggest things to me. Number 6, the next paragraph, highlighting yellow, please. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. To the left of that, number 6, fully. This is the last general area. My apology to everybody. We may have to go 2 minutes over, but we're going to go quick, okay? There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. That's in yellow. To the right of in the right margin, please put a little from fully right. A line and an arrow pointing to the right margin. Turn the book counterclockwise 90 degrees. Please write only the span of that paragraph. Please write people that are MIA or have passed on. Maybe you could do it 2 lines. People that are MIA, missing in action, MIA, or have passed on. Those are just for example, right? Some rights I can never fully write. 2 examples are just people that I don't know where they are, either they've passed on, I have no idea, I can't find them, right? So what does the big book say? It says no more yellow. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would write them if we could. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter, and there may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases, but we don't delay it if it can be avoided. Okay? Again, I don't let my brain dictate to me what what I can skip and what I can't skip with the sponsor. I try there are still people on my amends list from my original amends many years ago that I haven't been able to find. I tried to find them, but you know what came to me just a few years ago? I tried to find them a few years ago. I couldn't, but then I just sweep it under the carpet. And I've never made an attempt to pray and try to find them again after a few years. So God said, you know what? It's time again. It's time again to make an attempt to try to find them. Some people have passed on. You know, there are things that we suggest to each other that sometimes it's grave sites, right? Letters at grave sites. Sometimes the grave site's an ocean away. I can't do that. I write a letter, I light some candles in a space, and I just, with the spirit of this person, I make an amends. I read my letter from the heart, exactly like it's followed, right? By the way, I've actually asked the question, can you reveal to me, Grandma, if you see fit, if there's anything that I've left out, and how can I set things right with you? And it gets revealed on God's time. On God's time. It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. Okay, so highlighting yellow, we should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile and scrapping. Okay, that's in yellow. In my amends process, I should be sensible, tactful, right? All this spirit guides me, sponsor guides me. Considerate of the other person, humble, but without being groveling, servile. That has nothing to do with the person. That's about me wanting to look good, wanting them to forgive me, wanting to, you know what I mean? That has nothing to do with, that's a manipulative tool. Groveling. I don't do that, but I'm humble about it. There's a difference though, right? There's difference. So, or scrapping. I believe that means like combative, right? I forgot. I looked it up a long time ago. I'm not doing that either. Perfect. No more yellow. As God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone. I've had a, you know how we all have sometimes, the disease, the illness in the soul and the brain takes lines out of context in the big book and tries to make a case, right? So God's, I stand before, I don't crawl before anyone, right? The disease in me has used that as a reason why I shouldn't make an amends or an approach. No, that's not at all what it is. That's not at all what it is. Not in the context of this book. Okay. So we're gonna finish with the promises. If you can stick around, it'll be fantastic. If we are painstaking, please circle the word painstaking. Painstaking means thorough, diligent, right? If we are painstaking, circle pain. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, grab the pink now. Here are the famous step 9 promises. Highlight in pink. We will be amazed before we are halfway through. Okay, halfway through our amends, yes, but that's not rigid. It may be at any time. We're halfway through, right? We are going to know all in pink. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. Please circle with pen the 2 news. New. So today that we are here right now, today moving forward, if there are any amends owing, please consider that the Spirit speaking to you right now through this sacred text, you're going to know a new freedom, Ali. A new freedom and a new happiness. Continue in pink, please. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We've had plenty of examples, not enough time. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far, this is all in pink, no matter how far down the scales we have gone, we will see that our experience can benefit others. We are all living examples of that. This program is about that. It's about brokenness, light shining through brokenness. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. Notice it didn't say economic insecurity will leave me. The fear of people and fear of economic insecurity will leave me. Most of the last few years of my sobriety, I have been economically insecure. Most of the last few years of my sobriety, I have had no fear of it. Most of the time, right? There have been times where I've been like fetal position at home. So I think most of the time, there's been a freedom right now. Right now, there's a freedom around it. This life is not mine. This is God's life. He gave it back to me as a gift, and he made a deal with me. I'm gonna use you to help my other kids. Are you ready for that? To give up everything to my care? And you know what? I felt nothing short of bliss and joy and freedom when I have performed these assignments to the best of my ability. Despite not having money, despite not sleeping, despite depression spells, despite so many things, man, separations, doesn't matter. Fear of people, that we read that. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. Beautiful. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. God did for Michael what he could not do for himself. God did for Kit what she could not do for herself. God is doing for us what we could not do for us. He continues to do for me, right? We suddenly will start to realize that, oh my God, right? No pink for this sentence, okay? No pink for this sentence. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. Now finish off with pink, please, highlight. They are these promises. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. Always materialize if we work for them. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. The promises always materialize if we work for them. So for the sake of time, the last thing we'll do is if you just please turn the book on page 84 clockwise. So the left margin is facing you. Just please use the span of this top paragraph there. Please write 12 promises of step 9. Notice if you count them, there's 12 promises of the 9th step. I don't know, just interesting fact. 12 promises of step 9. 12 steps, 12 promises of step 9. They will always materialize if we work for them. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you everybody for staying a little bit longer. I appreciate you guys. So next week is one of my favorites, step 10. It is so deep and powerful. This next page, a couple of pages, it's like, holy moly. And next week is our official last session, official, as I said. I'm going to stay on for whoever wants to continue, and then we'll release the recordings for whoever cannot. Okay. God bless you guys. Thank you very much. I'm going to stay on today for another hour, for questions and or comments. Mickey, would you kindly just close the meeting and then say a prayer, close the meeting, and then open up the floodgates for everyone to say their goodbyes to each other, and then we'll shut everyone, mute everyone, and just do Q&As and sharing. Thank you.
And this is a 9th step